Good evening, everyone. It is 6:30 p.m. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Notice is hereby given that this is a regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Sandy Oaks, Texas, being held today, Thursday, March 11th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. by telephonic video conferencing, which is being live streamed and accessible to the public for the purpose of considering the following agenda items. All agenda items are subject to action. In accordance with the order of the Office of the Governor issued March 16, 2020, the City Council of Sandy Oaks, Texas will conduct a telephonic video meeting in order to advance the public health goal of limiting face-to-face meetings, also called social distancing, to slow the spread of the coronavirus, also known as COVID-19. The public may participate in this meeting by using any of the methods that are identified on the agenda. When requested, the public will be permitted to offer public comments telephonically or by audio as provided by the agenda and as permitted by the presiding officer during the meeting by signing up with the city secretary at least 2 hours in advance of the meeting, by emailing city clerk at cityofsandyoaks.com or by calling 210-607-0834. Written comments may be submitted to the city secretary up to 2 hours before the meeting by emailing city clerk at cityofsandyoaks.com and will be provided to the city council for their consideration. A recording of the telephonic meeting will be made and will be available to the public in accordance with the Texas Public Information Act upon written request. Ms. Shelton, can we get a quorum call, please?
Okay. Alderman Fillinger.
Present.
Alderman Bricken.
Present.
Alderman Rapino.
Present.
Alderman Crickmer.
Present.
Alderman Puente.
Here.
Thank you. And we also have City Attorney Cassandra Ortiz on with us. You do have a quorum.
Thank you. I'm going to go through a couple of announcements real quick. Item 2, Mayor and Administrative Announcements and Updates. Item A is Bexar County Pipeline to Plumbers Program. Hopefully everyone is aware of the program that Bexar County put in place. County commissioners allocated $5 million towards this program. It is only available to residents in the suburban cities or the unincorporated portions of Bexar County. There are documents on the main page of the city website that identify how you participate in that program. Generally, well, first of all, it only applies to homeowners. So if you are a renter, it will not apply to you. And it will not apply to a rental property either. It's owner-occupied properties. If you've already spent money, you can seek reimbursement through one side of the program. If you still have repairs that need to be completed, there is a plumber's program. They will help you locate a plumber and also help with the funding of the services that are needed. Item B is Nixle update regarding city communications. Hopefully by now, all of you have received some messaging. We've been kind of testing it out. It actually proved to be very, very helpful. A couple of nights ago, there was a young child, a teenage boy that was missing, and it allowed us to very quickly get the word out. Once the gentleman was found, we were able to disable that message, and so it proved to be very good. And then just a reminder, item C, that market days will be held in the park this Saturday from 9 until 2. And Miss Shelton would like to speak.
They're advertising it as 9 to 2, but there's a party that's starting. So they're probably going to be 9 to 1 because it's reserved from.
I have let Ms. Sarmiento know
Okay.
that the pavilion is not available. The pavilion is reserved for a birthday party. So the other areas in the park are available. Thank you. We do have some guests on the call with us. I would like to move over to item 6. And we'll start there just to be sensitive to the time for our guests. Item 6A is discuss and or possible action on resignation letter received from Judge Linda Molina. And I do see that Judge Molina is on the call. Hello. And so for everybody that is on the call, I'm looking for it. I wanted to read your resignation letter. Oh, here it is. So I'll just read it and then we'll talk about it after that. So esteemed Mayor Ball and San Diego City Council, Governor Greg Abbott has appointed me to the Board of Pardons and Paroles. This new position is a full-time job and it requires that I shut down my law practice and step down from all of my other positions. Sadly, that includes my position as municipal judge for the city of Sandy Oaks. It is with heavy heart that I hereby tender my resignation to become effective as soon as the new municipal judge is approved, sworn, and hired. It has been my honor and pleasure to help create this court and to be in the service of the community of Sandy Oaks. So congratulations, first of all. It's such an exciting time for you.
Thank you, thank you. It's been a whirlwind, that's for sure. And
Yeah.
Just gonna keep on going, going down that road and all kinds of stuff I would have never imagined, but it's exciting and I appreciate that.
And I do want to thank you for all of the effort that you put into establishing our court, because you know when I hunted you down, we didn't have one, so you started from scratch and helped build that up. So for that, we're very much appreciative.
You know, Mayor, you and I have always seen eye to eye, gotten along, been such kindred spirits, and I love that. And I have enjoyed all the time that I've spent with all of you. It has been really my pleasure beyond belief. What a great group. And I told you, it's true. The first words out of my mouth were, can I keep this one little thing I do? Because I really wanted to stay. But
that would have been great, but I do understand the task you're taking on is going to be very monumental. So you have a lot on your plate with that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate all of you very much. And I appreciate the community. And everybody's been so wonderful. And I'm so pleased to see how it's grown and it's going to keep on growing. And I'm so happy to have been a part of that.
Well, thank you. With that, I will entertain a motion from the council on item 6A. You're all on mute, so.
I'm off of mute. This is Charles Fillinger. Again, with heavy heart, I recommend that we accept the resignation of Judge Molina.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Alderman Fillinger and a second by Alderman Puente to accept the resignation, regretfully, of Judge Molina. Not that we can stop you, because I'm not going to call Greg, sorry. So with that, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Can I oppose?
You need to put yours on mute.
Okay. I'm gonna mute
Catherine
myself.
wants to oppose. I won't let her. So with that, the motion does carry. And again, we wish you all the best, Judge Molina. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
So somebody's phone is on.
Might be me. Let me, no, let me just log.
Did you log out? That's better. Okay, that's better. Okay, we'll move on to item 6B, which is discuss and or possible action on the procedures for filling the vacancy of municipal judge and or fill a vacancy for the position of municipal judge. So we do have Ms. Ortiz, is this the the amended ordinance.
This is the, yes, if you
Okay.
have in front of you, it is the line version that includes the alternate judges and then amended one. That is a
Okay, so for the council members, you should have an amended ordinance. And we're amending ordinance 2021, I'm not quite sure what, 2019-123. And in situations like this, since we're amending it, the red line version is really the easiest way to kind of work through this. And so it says here, we're amending ordinance 2019-123. Previously, it said appointment of a municipal court judge. We're adding and alternate judges. Third whereas statement is being struck, and a new one is added after the last one that reads, whereas the city council established its municipal court by ordinance number 2019-123 and finds it necessary to allow for appointment of alternate judges, and therefore finds it necessary to amend ordinance 2019-123. The other change is in section 6, and we're taking existing language and separating it out into paragraph B that says, if a vacancy exists in the position of municipal judge, the mayor shall fill the vacancy by appointment, subject to city council approval, for the remainder of the unexpired term. The mayor at all times shall act as judge in the absence of any appointment to fill the vacancy as provided by this section. Then we are adding paragraph C. The city council may appoint alternate judges subject to the same qualifications as the municipal judge, who shall have all the powers and shall discharge all the duties of the municipal judge while serving as municipal judge. Each appointment shall be for a term of 2 years to run concurrently with the office of the mayor. The judges may exchange benches and act for each other in any proceeding pending in the court. An act performed by any of the judges is binding on all parties to the proceeding. And then there's been language added to references in section 6, where it references the municipal judge. We're adding and alternate judges in a few places there. And basically, that's the end of that amendment on here. Are there any questions from the council? I will take that as a no. Yes.
I have read the ordinance and it's a good ordinance. So I move that we adopt ordinance number 2021-1779, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sandy Oaks, Texas, amending ordinance number 2019-123, establishing a municipal court, including providing for findings of fact, purpose, definitions, creation, and jurisdiction, appointment of municipal court judge and alternate judges, and so forth and so on as the authorizing language goes.
I'll second that.
And that was Mr. Rapino? Or was that
Yes.
Gary Rapino? Okay.
No, it was me.
I'm sorry, Catherine. Okay. I was just confirming with Ms. Shelton that 179 was indeed the right number. Okay, so we have a motion by Alderman Fillinger and a second by Alderman Rapino to approve amending ordinance 2019-123 and replacing it with 2021-179. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
That motion carries. Okay. Catherine, if you can get me a clean copy, I'll sign this before I leave this evening. And with that, next on the agenda would be to, and Ms. Ortiz, may we do that this evening? The appointment?
Yes, you may appoint a municipal judge. Since there is a vacancy on council, you make the appointment and then council affirms this appointment.
Okay, so we have two gentlemen on the phone with us this evening, and it was a pleasure actually meeting both of them. They both are very qualified, and I think would do a very good job for the position that we're looking to fill. It was kind of a tough decision, but I think what I'd like to do is for the position of municipal judge, I would like to ask if Frank Dixon would be interested in assuming that position.
Yes, Mayor, that would be a great honor. So that, absolutely, yes, I would.
Okay, so with that, I will make the nomination. And then I need the council, someone on council to actually, are they making the nomination or the appointment? They're making the appointment.
Okay, I sat in with, in the meeting with you, and both gentlemen are highly qualified, but I move that we appoint Frank Dixon as our municipal judge.
Thank you.
Sir,
Trying to spell. Okay, so we have a motion by Alderman Fillinger to appoint Frank Dixon as the municipal judge. Do we have a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a second by Alderman Puente. So are there any other comments or questions? Okay, with that, all in favor, please say aye.
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 I
Aye.
All right, that motion carries. Welcome, Mr. Dixon.
Thank you so much. I look forward to working with everyone, and it's a great honor. And I enjoyed meeting the people that I did meet, and then other folks I'll get to meet in person, not just on Zoom. So I look forward to that as well.
And I want to be where you're at, wherever that is. That looks.
Yeah, there's no, I don't have a pina colada, so that's the only thing missing.
Okay, so at this time, what I would like to do next is ask Mr. Oh, who took the? Oh, sorry, we had a little feedback. I would like to ask Joe Bohack if he would be interested in serving in an alternate judge position.
Yes, I would absolutely be willing to help y'all out there.
Perfect. So with that, I would like to make a nomination for Joseph Bohack to be nominated to fill the position for alternate municipal judge.
And with that nomination, I move that we appoint Mr. Joe Bohack as the alternate municipal judge.
And I'll second that appointment.
Okay. So we have we have a motion from Alderman Fillinger and a second from Alderman Rapino to appoint Joe Bohack as our alternate municipal judge. Does anyone have any questions or comments on that? Okay, with that, we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
I
Aye.
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 And that motion carries. And Joe, I look forward to having you here with us as well.
Thanks for the opportunity. It's great.
You are so welcome. And we will move on from here. And I do want to thank our guests for joining us. You're welcome to stay. We always have so much fun. But you're free to go. And Linda, I still have your phone number, so don't think you're getting.
Right. And I will coordinate with Ms. Felton tomorrow morning to kind of close out anything I need to do. and to coordinate with both Mr. Dixon and Mr. Bohack going forward. And I should be able to get that started tomorrow morning with
Well,
your.
okay, and what I need to do is work with both of these gentlemen to get the oath of office and the swearing in done, but we don't need to do that at this meeting. We'll make arrangements either probably to meet back down here if that's okay with both of you.
Okay, well, sure we can work with schedules, right?
Yes, so we can.
Okay, and I want to congratulate Linda also on her new position. So congratulations.
Thank you, thank
Yeah.
you. And but between the three of us, we can figure out which, for the four of us, where's Catherine? We can figure out what to do
Yeah,
for Monday, because I'll be
and I
going.
know Joe. I
swearing.
know Joe, so I'll be able to work with Joe. Is the docket Monday? Is that right?
Yes, sir. There is a docket Monday. 3
Okay.
dockets.
Okay. Well, I'll get in touch with you tomorrow also, Catherine.
That's fine. I'll be here.
All right. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you,
Thank
Linda.
you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Joe.
So-
Thank you, Frank. Thank you,
All
Linda.
right.
Bye, Linda.
Have a great evening.
See y'all.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Take care.
Bye,
Bye, Joe.
thank
Good
you.
night.
Okay, so let's move back to item 3. Hold on just one second. Ms. Shelton would like to ask a question. Go ahead.
I wasn't sure, does Mr. Dixon need to be sworn in before he can hold court on Monday? Okay, before Monday.
Okay, back to item 3, citizens to be heard. Ms. Shelton, did we have any submissions for citizens to be heard?
No, ma'am, we did not.
Okay, we'll move on then to item 4, which is financial and budget report. The income and expenses will be reported by the city secretary, Catherine Yelton, with possible discussion and/or action.
Thank you. I don't know if you want to mute yours or I can, oh, I hear feedback or maybe, no? Okay. So we have a beginning balance as of February 1st, 2021 of $271,850.65. Checks and payments of $78,229.78. Deposits and credits of $104,386.97. We do have then an ending balance as of February 28th, 2021 of $298,007.84.
Does anyone on council have any questions on the financial report? Okay. Would someone like to make a motion?
I move that we accept the financial report as reported.
We
I'll
have a-
second that.
Okay. We have a motion by Alderman Rapino and a second by Alderman Crickmer to accept the income and expense report as presented. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, it's unanimous and that motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to item number 5, consent agenda. We have, let's see, all matters listed under consent agenda are considered routine by the City Council of the City of Sandy Oaks and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. 3 items are on the consent agenda. Item A, approve the January 2021 City Attorney Invoice number 1269 from Casan and Ortiz, not to exceed $2,370. Item B, approve the minutes from February 11th, 2021 regular City Council meeting. And item C, approve the minutes from the February 25th, 2021 regular city council meeting.
Madam Mayor, I did not receive a copy of the minutes from either of those meetings. So unless everybody else got them, I didn't get the minutes. So I'd like to have those two items pulled. And I would move that we approve the invoice from the city attorney.
So let me ask the other council members, did anyone else not receive the minutes?
I never got any.
I got
I
them.
saw them.
I got them as
I've
well.
received.
So, Ms. Ortiz, would it be acceptable if Catherine were to send those out and we take a brief recess while they have some time to review those?
Do that, or table them for the next meeting, whatever the council prefers. For those that did not receive the minutes review, or the person who, or the council member that did not receive the minutes can abstain from voting.
As Mayor Pro Tem, Mr. Fillinger, your thoughts on that?
I would go with a 5-minute recess if we can receive however long a recess we need to receive them and review them. I've checked my email box and I just do not find it in there at all.
Okay, Ms. Shelton, can you email those out to
It
every?
was with the finance report.
As an additional attachment, you mean?
Yes. It was attached with the finance report and the ACO.
Okay, so I heard that Alderman Puente did receive it. Alderman Bricken did receive it or did not?
I can't find it. There's a difference there.
Alderman Rapino, did you receive it?
Yes, I found it. I found it.
Okay.
I searched for it because I saw it on the agenda and
And Alderman Crickmer, did you receive it?
Yes.
Okay, so send it to Alderman Fillinger and Alderman Bricken.
Okay.
And it is, hold on a moment. I have to get back to a phone that actually works. It's 6:58 p.m. We're going to call a 10-minute recess and to give these aldermen a moment to be able to review the minutes, and then we will convene back and pick up where we left off. Okay, we have one more minute before we will go back into session. Can you mute, please? It's 7:08 p.m. We're going to call this meeting back into session. And we will resume with the consent agenda. And if anyone would like to make a motion relative to that.
Well, since I caused the recess, having read the minutes of the meeting, I move that we accept the consent agenda as listed.
I'll second that. Oh, well.
Thomas, you crack me up. Okay, so we have a motion by Alderman Fillinger and a second by Alderman Rapino to accept the consent agenda as presented. All in favor, say aye.
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 It's unanimous and the motion carries. Okay, we already did number 6. Let's move on to number 7. For the Marshal, item A, updates and announcements for Marshal Lopez with possible discussion and action. Marshal Lopez, do you have any general announcements?
No, ma'am.
Okay, we will move on to item 7B, presentation of monthly report by Marshal Lopez with possible discussion and action.
Good evening, council. So for February's data for court defendants, we had 98 court defendants. We had 138 cases. Traffic stops, we had 52 traffic stops with 50 citations and 47 warnings. We had 1 arrest, and then we go down a little bit. We had 4 possession of drug paraphernalia citations, and then we had 1 civil matter, 2 disturbances, 2 information reports, 1 theft, 1 welfare concern, 1 assault, and then for the COV, a little bit further down, recreational vehicles, we issued 2 citations for that, and then had 1 theft of property. We had 3 vehicle crashes in the city, and then 1 credit card abuse, and then cruelty to non-livestock animals. We had 2 citations for that as well. And if you look down, if you go to the February's arrest, we had 1 for possession of a controlled substance on that.
Thank you, Marshal Lopez.
Yes, ma'am.
Muted who? Oh. Okay. I don't think we have to have any action on this particular item. So we'll move on to item 7C, discuss and or possible action on establishing the Sandy Oaks Police Department, designating the chief of police as an officer of the city, providing for the appointment of the police chief, providing for the appointment and qualifications of police officers, establishing a reserve police force, abolishing the office of the marshal, and other matters related hereto. So you should have a copy of this draft ordinance, which is 2021-180. And hopefully you've read through it. I'm sure you may have some questions. I have a couple of items that I've kind of marked on here. One is abolishing the office of the city marshal. As I understand it, and Ms. Ortiz can chime in on this as well, it's not a requirement to abolish it. We could maintain it, but if I understand correctly, we would still need to fill a position for a city marshal in order for that to be in place. Is that correct, Ms. Ortiz?
That is correct. The police department.
I can barely hear you. Hold on, let me turn up my volume. Try that again. I'm sorry, go ahead.
The police department and the marshal's office could serve 2 different purposes.
Who's printing?
The department would be law enforcement.
Hear you, so just if you'll give me just a minute, I'll let you know when it stops printing. Okay, it stopped. Let's try that one more time. I'm sorry.
You are correct. The city marshal's office and the police department could be used for different purposes. For example, a marshal's office is sometimes used for the news report, and then the police department is used for law enforcement, and the everyday law enforcement monitoring of the street.
Okay. And so really, by going this route, we're just transferring all of the duties and responsibilities of the marshal to the police chief in that department. And under section 5, item or paragraph B, it says the city council is hereby authorized to appoint the chief of police by majority vote. The chief of police shall be appointed by the city council upon the recommendation of the mayor and shall have such powers and duties as are commonly defined for such an officer in state law or as provided under city ordinance. And any appointment by the chief of police is subject to final approval of the council. I did have a question, Ms. Ortiz, when it says majority vote, that is 4 of the 5, is that correct?
The majority would be 3 of the 5.
Okay. And then on the very last page, this is what I sent to you through email. Section 7 talks about abolition of the marshal. And it says the city marshal's office as established by City of Sandy Oaks Ordinance number 2014-12. So for council members, that goes in that first blank. And amended by City of Sandy Oaks Ordinances number 2018-108 and 2019-154. Those two go in that second blank. And the only other thing that I would change on here, Ms. Ortiz, is section 9. I'd like to change the wording on this because technically it cannot go into the position and the agency cannot go into effect upon passage of this until there's some paperwork that we have to go through TCOL. We have to do some other things. We have to approve the minutes from this meeting to go with that package. So I would change that to be something that would indicate that, you know, upon completion or approval, TCOL is going to give us the final approval on this.
Yeah, I also thought of that with whether the chief would be waiting until TCOL approval to make that appointment. So that would, we can change that effectively
Okay.
to whenever it's finalized and approved by TCOL.
So what do you think appropriate language would be for that particular section?
It can, the ordinance shall take effect upon final approval by TCOL. And maybe Marshall Lopez can answer this, the approval of the policy. I don't know if TCOL needs a final policy for the police department to be approved as well.
You're talking about the policy manual, policy and procedures?
Yes, ma'am.
That's part of the packet that he submits to TCOL for review. Is that correct, Marshall Lopez?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
That was a delay.
It may be stronger language to put a proposed date if there is a particular date that we know people can approve it or how long it takes people to approve it. Otherwise, I would just keep it upon final approval by TCOL and other state agencies.
Yeah, because one of the other things that TCOL will do, and just for the council members that are on the call, basically what we're doing is we're starting an entirely new agency. So we're starting from scratch again, just like we did with the marshal's office. So it's not just a name change. It will disable the existing agency and we go through the entire approval process for a new agency. And that agency approval also includes a physical inspection of the facility and at the new building, the evidence room, the equipment that's in place, making sure all the credentials of the officer. I mean, it's the same thing from that we did initially. And then Marshall Lopez, did you leave us? Oh, okay. Did you want to speak to why the change, why we're going through this? Hold on, there he is. Hold on, we're having a little technical difficulty, so we're gonna change this up.
Sorry. Well, okay. So I know there's a lot of trying to understand of why we're going from what is to go from a marshal's office to a police department. The changes for marshals, what I was told by the state was that they can, city council can make the decision to just do city ordinances and things like that, and along with court. And those were the two things. As a police department, I mean, we're doing everything as a police department now. TCO requires specific things of, I'm not sure if you're looking at the handout that was submitted. So these are the things that we need to go by for them to be a police department. Where the things that we have now is things that we already have in place for the marshal's office. And so, in my opinion, we're already doing it. So it just makes more sense to convert over to Sandy Oaks Police Department. It's more, people can understand when they see police, it's a universal name, universal word. They know that we're a law enforcement agency. I know some people, citizens, they're not understanding what a marshal's, but we are a law enforcement entity of that. So.
Okay. Sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Hold on, let me get resituated here. Okay, so as Marshal Lopez was mentioning, and one of the reasons why I support this is that the term marshal is confusing to the public in some aspects. Some think it's a U.S. Marshal. The city marshal has nothing to do with the U.S. Marshal, just so everybody's clear on that. It has nothing to do with the fire marshal. But police department is a universally recognized term. And so basically what we're doing is renaming the department to something that makes more sense. But in order to do that, we have to go through all of the formalities of basically starting over. Are there any questions from the council members?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, sir. Alderman Crickman, go ahead.
There's $1,000 fee for the registration and $3,120.49 for all the other essentials.
Whoa. Where are you getting $1,000 from?
The Texas Commission on Law Enforcement.
Oh, TCO has waived that
Okay.
$1,000 fee.
Okay, that's good. Good to know. That's all.
Oh, okay. And we'll talk about the other items. Well, we might as well talk about it now. It's all part of the same thing. So one of the things that would have to happen is we would have to make some changes to badges and patches on uniforms and insignia on vehicles and some paperwork, things that are in place. Fortunately, with the court system and the company that we use for the court system, there's no issue with them whatsoever. There's no charge, no fees, nothing to make the change with them. With Bexar County Dispatch, there's nothing that needs to change with them either. So what I did is I worked with Marshal Lopez to identify what the total cost would be. And it's an estimated cost, but we think we hit on everything that's in there. So, the badges, the shoulder patches, the graphics for the vehicles. And then the bottom section is all about different paperwork and labels and things like that that would say, they still say City of Sandy Oaks Marshal's Department. And from what I understand, some of those can continue to be used. So there's not really a need to go out and have them purchased. All of those items these are the quantities that we originally ordered. And the junk vehicle warning labels, property receipts, criminal trespass warning, vehicle storage and inventory receipt, a plea, a two-part plea. I'm not sure what the order granting is, but it's a two-part form. Some 10 books of notice of violation and 10 books of citations and business cards. All of that comes up to about $941. But you're correct. If you add in the badging, the graphics, and the patches, the total cost for that is going to run an estimated $3,120. Of course, not all of that's going to happen right away. We're still working through the process, and we would not make any of these purchases until TCO has gone through the agency code and approved that. Are there any other questions? Okay. So for the ordinance itself, the changes in section 7 and the final, we probably need to still define the final wording in section 9 on when the ordinance will take effect. What I wrote down is this ordinance shall take effect upon its final approval, upon final approval by TCO and other state agencies. Okay, state agencies.
Can I offer up a suggestion?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we amend it by striking upon its passage and replacing the stricken with upon final approval by applicable regulating state agencies.
Applicable state agencies. Got it. Okay. Ms. Ortiz, will that work?
Yes, that will work. I just gave a thumbs up.
Oh, sorry. I see it.
I was on a whole different page. Thank you for the thumbs up.
Okay. So if there's no other discussion, if someone, oh, hold on just one second. Ms. Shelton does have a question. I'm going to put myself on mute.
So also that's the last line where it says passed and approved. The last line where it says passed and approved on this blank day, it needs to say 11th day of March, 2021.
Okay, that was a good catch. That should say March 2021.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, anyone have any additional questions, concerns, comments? Then if someone would like to make a motion on item 7C from the agenda.
Okay, everybody had their chance. I moved that we adopt ordinance number 2021-180. An ordinance of the City of Sandy Oaks, Texas, establishing the Sandy Oaks Police Department, designating the chief of police as an officer of the city, providing for the appointment of the police chief, providing for the appointment and qualifications of police officers, establishing a reserve police force, abolishing the office of the marshal, repealing conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Alderman Fillinger and a second by Alderman Puente to approve ordinance 2021. Hold on, before we move forward. Alderman Fillinger, I think we need to first approve the changes to the draft and then approve the ordinance.
Okay. I move that we adopt ordinance number 2021-180 as amended.
I'll second that.
Well, slow down. Ms. Ortiz, I think we need your assistance here. What I was expecting was that the amend the proposed ordinance, the specific section 8, section 9 sections, and then once those are approved, then approve the ordinance overall. Is that correct?
You can do that, or he can also state with his motion as amended, as he did. So since he made the motion, it was seconded. The Mayor Pro Tem would have to withdraw his motion with the agreement of Alderwoman Puente, and then restate the motion to include as amended or as discussed with amendment.
Okay. Charles, what would you like to do?
Okay, I withdraw my original motion.
Does Jennifer need to?
And ask Alderman Puente to also withdraw her second.
I will withdraw my second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Alderman Fillinger and a second by Alderman Puente to withdraw their original motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 You cracked me up, Tom. Okay, that motion carries. All right, Mr. Fillinger, go ahead.
Let me get back to the correct spot here. I lost my mouse. Okay. That said, then I move that we adopt ordinance number 2021-180 as amended. And that's my motion, ma'am.
Okay, I'll second that.
So we have a motion by Alderman Fillinger and a second by Alderman Puente to adopt ordinance 2021-180 as amended. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, and that is, that motion carries. Okay. Ms. Shelton, are you going to make the? No, you can't. I don't need you to print right now. Just make the changes. Okay. Item 7D, discuss and possible action on Citizen Complaint Review Board and policy for Police Department. I'm going to pull that one for this meeting. We are still working through some minor details on the Citizen Complaint Review Board. And the policy for the police department is done. But since they were written, since the this agenda item contained both of those. I'm just going to pull this. We'll put it on the next agenda. Ms. Shelton, will you make a notation to place this item on the next meeting? Okay. Okay, we'll move on to item 8. I did?
You froze.
Oh, it says my internet. I'm sitting here with y'all. Why is my internet unstable?
You're back now, ma'am. Yeah, now you're gone.
No, she's there.
Oh, I'm here. I was on mute. Sorry. Item 8A, updates and announcements from Animal Control Advisory Committee Chair Jennifer Puente with possible discussion and action. So Ms. Puente, do you have any general updates or announcements that you'd like to share?
No, but we are gonna start, I'm gonna start reaching out to the committee members so we can start having our regular meetings.
Perfect. Okay. And then item B is presentation of monthly report by ACO Maldonado with possible discussion and action. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Awesome. All right. For February's report, I added a new line, resolved PTC, which is resolved prior to contact. It sort of relates to unable to locate. The way it differs is I'm on the way and somebody called me back. I have some kind of knowledge what happened in the incident. Unable to locate is kind of like, I don't really know what happened. I can't find the dog. I can't find the animal, stuff like that. So that's why I added a new line. Okay.
Okay, you're back.
Okay. So for the month of February, we had 5 stray warnings, 2 stray citations, 1 stray impounded, 1 stray unable to locate. For cruelty, we had 3 warnings, 1 citation, 1 impoundment, 1 unable to locate, and 1 resolved prior to contact. For the enforcement side, we had 3 warnings and nothing else, for a total of 19 calls for service. And as of 3/10/2021, we have 4 animals in custody. That number actually went up today, so that's a little off. We picked up 1 animal, so as of today, we have 5 animals.
And of the 5 that are in custody, how many of those are from the cruelty?
Of the 5, it's 4.
4 of them are related to cruelty cases?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Hey, are there any questions from the council members? Okay. I don't believe we need to have an action on that one. So thank you, Officer Maldonado, for that. We will move on to item 9A, Public Works and Parks, update and announcements from the Park Advisory Committee Chair, Tom Rapino, with possible discussion and action. Go ahead, sir.
All right, I forgot to unmute. So, yes, we're having a meeting next Tuesday, and I hope to have a good meeting. I just wanted to mention that last Saturday we all met at the park so that we could figure out how to emplace the shade and how to place the bench in the playground area, and we did that. And I think, Catherine, do you know if the shade has been ordered? I know you were looking for the stats on where to order it.
I would need to get with Charlotte on that. She's been tasked with
okay,
that. She'll be in tomorrow, though, if
okay,
you'd like to give her a call.
okay. I know she was looking for the stats and I think she got them. Uh, So, okay, and this Saturday, we're going to meet out there again to try and figure out where the bases go. Again, we tried it this last week. We were somewhat successful, but I think we decided we weren't totally successful. And we also figured out where we would put the flagpoles up at the current city hall and where we would put them up at the new city hall. Also, I've been talking with Gary Smith of the Grant Works to see if we can garner some money from the state grant system. And he is going to give me some contacts that he has, and we're going to see what we can do this year and maybe something bigger next year. I thought that the grants closed next month, but he's telling me that it goes till October. So we'll see where that goes. And hopefully we'll get something this year. I'll fill you in next meeting where the grant situation leads us. And that's all I have.
And what time on Saturday are we meeting?
I thought it was 10 o'clock, just
Okay.
like
Like last time?
am I mistaken? I thought we had.
We probably
had,
did, but I
That,
didn't
that
recall.
was the agreement, 10 o'clock.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. And, so now we'll move on to item 10, which is administration. Item A is to discuss and/or possible action on ordinance 2021-178, providing for registration and inspection of residential rental properties within the city. So this has been a problem for a very, very long time, but it really came to light during the winter storm. And what I'm hearing from some people is that they are renters and they are in an awkward position because, as I mentioned earlier about the Bexar County Plumbing Assistance Program, that does not apply to them. It does not apply to the property owner either, because rental properties are technically commercial properties. They're not, they may be rated residential, but for all practical purposes, it's an income producing property. Therefore, it's a commercial entity. And so we have a number of people out here in our city that are struggling with the plumbing issue. For one, they've had to put their own money in just to make the place that they're renting habitable. I am also aware of two different situations where a renter actually moved out and broke the lease because the electric within their home that they were renting was substandard and they had trouble maintaining power. And they had small children and it was just very uncomfortable for them, and they had no way to enforce the owner to take care of that. I'm also aware of a recent situation where a resident moved out because the septic system had failed and the owner was not willing to do the repairs. They were much more willing to have them leave and put another renter in there. So we do have a number of rental properties here. I have no idea. I'm going to have to go to the appraisal district to get the list. They can easily get that for me, but I think we all are quite aware that there are a number of rental properties out here. And so this ordinance is to address those types of situations. And it's going to require a registration of the property. And that's going to include some specific information like who's the owner of the property, what's the physical address of the rental property, what is the name of the rental property if it's not identified by a physical address, such as, you know, an apartment complex. If the owner, landlord, manager is a company, corporation, or association, the name and address of the registered agent on file with the Texas Secretary of State. Type of rental property, like single family, two family, multifamily. Also the full contact information of the owner, the landlord, the manager, as well as a local contact for emergency repairs. We also are requiring the tenant names and contact information for all persons listed on the current lease. And then any other information that would be deemed necessary would be provided as well. The ordinance does call for an inspection of the rental property. So the city will receive a written or oral complaint from a tenant, a neighbor, the code enforcement officer, a public works employee, police officer, or other interested party concerning a rental property indicating some level of violation or concern for health and safety. And then that would trigger an inspection. And we do have a contracted building inspector that we would utilize for this. And then they have a certain period of time. The inspection would be conducted within 10 days of the order. And it says here, when an inspection is ordered, a preliminary inspection shall be conducted by a city code compliance officer or building inspector working at the direction of the city. The preliminary inspection is to identify issues of substantial concern that affect the habitability of the property involved, not merely aesthetic or surface level concerns. So that's not what this is about. Dangerous electrical problems, water leaks, structural damage, insufficiencies, plumbing or sewer blockages, gas leaks, and other major problems will be the type of issues the city will be assessing. And then there are some, it gives timelines for remediation and, you know, how property is accessed. And on item J, section 3, paragraph J, Catherine, that should read 2019-134. And I'm sorry, it's item J, section 3, paragraph J, 2019-134. Yes, sir.
I thought it was 173 was the latest version.
173 is the latest?
I do believe so, ma'am.
Oh, it is? 172, 173. Catherine. It's 174. 2020-174. I stand corrected. Okay.
I did my homework.
Good for you. I'm glad you did. I came up with 134 from something.
I believe that was the older version, and we amended it to 173.
Okay. 174.
174.
You're getting a D on your homework. It's okay. I got an F. Don't worry about it.
All right. I already put the gold star up.
So are there any questions from the council members on this particular ordinance? Oh,
yes, ma'am.
One thing I did want to say is that all of the fees associated with this are borne by the property owner. And we do have, where did it go? Here on section 2, paragraph B, the council needs to establish a fee for this registration. And was that Alderman Fillinger who had a question?
Yes, ma'am. I actually have several questions. I would like to broadly say I'm way in favor of this ordinance. That said, I have some questions, and section 1 definitions. We have listed a code compliance officer as an officer or investigator who possesses specialized training in and whose primary duties are prevention, detection, investigation, inspection, and enforcement of violations of laws regulating public nuisance, public health, safety and welfare, and more. My question is to Ms. Ortiz. I find no reference to a code compliance officer under Texas law. And every time I look for it, it takes me to code enforcement officer. Is there a legal difference between a code compliance officer and a code enforcement officer?
No, there's not. It's just the compliance was used in the
Well,
draft.
it's a much more polite term, but the code enforcement officers have to be state certified.
Yes.
And if he's a city official, do we need to establish the office of code enforcement officer prior to adopting this ordinance?
I want to say there are code enforcement officers in some of the building inspection ordinances. I would have to double check whether it's code enforcement officer or I instead of code compliance officer or some other term used for an employee of the city or someone hired by the city to enforce codes or
Catherine, we have
violations. For the purpose of this ordinance, if compliance was used just as a city term for this ordinance, so it can, just because it's not someone who is licensed by the state necessarily, it would be someone who's given authority to the city to
well,
to enforce the code or check the compliance.
Yeah, the basically, I'm concerned about whether we call him a code compliant officer or a code enforcement officer. He's fulfilling the office and duties of a code enforcement officer. We do not have to have a code compliance officer or code enforcement officer. The city can enforce this by directing a building inspector to do the inspections. If we're going to have a code compliance officer, then he's going to be a city official, and it's my belief that we should establish the office of code enforcement officer and seek a qualified candidate.
Alderman Fillinger,
Ma'am?
we do have that. Ordinance number 2015-20 was an ordinance establishing the Municipal Office of Code Enforcement Officer, procedure for appointment, tenure, vacancy, compensation, duties. Okay, am I back yet? Sorry, I don't know what part it froze on.
Okay.
But
So we do have
hold on. The duties we assign to the marshal in another ordinance. So we already have in place, but we do refer to it as code enforcement officer as opposed to code and compliance officer.
And again, ma'am, it's a state felony for someone to be a code enforcement officer without being state certified. That's Texas Department of, well, it's under the occupational code.
Right.
And I do forget if it's a felony or if it's a class A misdemeanor, but it's a lot more money and a lot more time than I would want to spend. So I'm just not, I'm just not real comfortable with that.
Well, and we're not utilizing code enforcement from the, as I understand it, and Ms. Ortiz, correct me if I'm wrong, code enforcement, code compliance, and building inspector serve the same role.
No, ma'am.
No, hold on just a moment. From an inspection standpoint, that is, from what I understand, that is correct. According to this ordinance.
Yeah, you're back on the 2015-20?
No, I'm back on the current one that we're contemplating here.
Okay. I'm just.
But we don't have, see, the difference is, Charles, we're not talking about, what we're talking about are building code. And the building inspector, if I'm correct, he abides by those codes, the building codes, the fire codes, the various things that we, here's somebody, I see, John Crickmer has his hand up. Go ahead, sir.
Can you just change the wording a little bit to say a designated city official qualified to ascertain blah, blah, blah standards, minimum standards or what have you?
Since we don't have a code compliance or code enforcement officer, and we do intend to use the building inspector, we could always bring this back in the future.
I would I would like to see the removal of code compliance officer and maybe replace it with municipal authorized building inspector throughout. But we do need to consider a code enforcement officer at some point in time. But I don't think it's necessary for this ordinance if we remove that definition out and replace every place it says code, city code of compliance officer, replace it with city building inspector. That's my thoughts, ma'am.
Okay, I can definitely support that.
Okay, and
Yeah, I think it's redundant to have both of those positions when they're basically doing the same thing.
well, the difference is, like I say, a code compliance officer. Every.
Well, that's what I'm saying, Charles. The building inspector covers both.
Well, no, he doesn't. It's a different thing, but a building inspector can certify that the building is not meeting standards of the.
And that's what I'm saying. That's what we want, isn't it?
Yep.
That's what we're looking for.
So I recommend we take that out. And I'd like to go ahead and discuss all the way through. We need to look at the where the blank is. Let me see, section 2. B, an owner, landlord, manager of rental property shall pay a fee of so many dollars per rental property registration. Is this going to be an annual fee or a one-time only fee?
It's a
I
one-time.
think it stayed
for the-
somewhere every time for the tenant, right? Every time they register, don't they? That's what I read somewhere. They have to re-register with another fee.
That was, I think,
Or
if it
did I
changed
mistake
ownership.
that somewhere?
Ms. Ortiz, can you help us out with this?
Yeah, anytime the property itself would change ownership, it would require a new registration, or anytime the tenant changes, it would require a new registration.
That's what
Okay.
I thought.
And so the registration is, we probably should talk a little bit about what would be involved in that. So there's going to have to be a letter or something generated and mailed. Can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So some of when looking at the fee, we would have to look at the cost associated, what it's going to cost us to do that. So there would be a mailing and a follow-up. It could require upwards of 2 mailings to get the notification to the property owner. And then, of course, the manpower to do that. I don't anticipate this being a costly endeavor at all from the registration perspective, but that's open to discussion.
Yeah, I looked at many other cities in the state of Texas, and their registration fees for initial registration was from $25 to I think the highest one I saw for initial registration was $83. But a lot of cities charge a penalty if an owner is found renting property without the registration. I think we have that under the at the end of the ordinance, the $500 violation fee. That would give them incentive to do the registration.
Right.
So I really don't have a number to recommend there. Like I say, the range I see is $25 to $83 per unit. Some of them have a sliding scale on multifamily properties, which we're not really dealing with now, where it's the registration fee plus so much per rental unit.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're going to have to readdress this. Maybe everybody would consider what they think would be a proper registration fee to start this with. Moving on to section 3, residential rental property inspection. Paragraph A, where it said the city code compliance officer may order an inspection of the interior and or exterior of a rental property if any following circumstances. I'd like to strike may and replace it with shall. If we
Charles,
have a, ma'am?
Charles, you broke up.
Yes.
You froze for just a moment when you said that you would like to strike, and then we didn't hear.
Okay, in paragraph A of section 3, the city code compliance officer may order an inspection. I would like may to be stricken and replaced with shall order an inspection.
But do we need to remove city code compliance officer? Didn't we agree to that?
Who in the city is going to recommend or instruct the building inspector to do an inspection?
So that can come from a number of places. It could be the marshal. It could be, animal.
City needs to be the contact point to call the building inspector and say, we need an inspection at this property.
Well, as I said earlier, the code compliance responsibility resides with the marshal's office. And within the marshal's office, you also have animal control. So if we designated the marshal's department to be the individual, because they're encountering this either from a complaint or visual inspection, some type of response that call for service is what is alerting them. So I think it makes sense to perhaps come from that department.
So then we would strike city code compliance officer and insert the
I would
marshal slash police chief, so that we don't have to readdress this after we change the department.
We could do that.
Law enforcement. Use the term law enforcement. Appropriate law enforcement.
That makes sense.
That does make sense, because I know that Bexar County deputies have approached us as well about specific properties that they felt needed to be condemned.
Well,
but what I'm saying is not a title. And I see the marshal standing here, so I can ask him, do you want it to be you? Do you want it to be one of your officers?
how about we just strike code compliance officer and leave the city, strike may, and insert shall order an inspection of the interior and or exterior.
That makes sense to me.
That sounds good.
Yeah, because in paragraph 1, it says the city receives a written or oral complaint. So there you go.
Mayor and council, can I just suggest, because there are potentially multiple amendments to this particular draft, that this be one, either amendments be made by motion or some consensus. If there's not a consensus on council, that be taken up separately, so that way we know exactly what is being amended with the multiple amendments.
So I would agree totally with that. What I think I'm hearing from Alderman Fillinger is that this probably needs some additional work anyway. So what I was contemplating was continuing with the discussion without an action this evening, other than everyone take it back, consider the discussion, provide input back to you and myself for a presentation at a future meeting. Is that acceptable?
That sounds good to me.
We can do that, similar to.
Me too.
From the second
Yeah.
reading.
Yeah, because I think it's very important to get this one right. you know, the lives are at stake here in some cases. And, you know, we're blessed that we've not had a serious issue related to this, but it is a concern. Okay, Alderman Phil, oh, hold on. I see that Alderman Brooken has his hand up. Go ahead, sir.
Would it, would it be feasible to lay the responsibility for trash pickup on the rental property owner?
I do know that we did address animals in here, but I do believe that what you're bringing up is very valid. So that was in section. That's the inspection. It's probably going to fit under section 2 as an additional item, part of registration requiring trash pickup service. Ms. Ortiz, where would you feel that that would probably be best inserted?
I see it in paragraph J. I'm looking for the section.
It's section 3,
Section
paragraph
3,
J.
paragraph
Yeah.
J. Yes.
Well, that's for the.
Yeah, but we could include the trash pickup in under that one because section 2 is just for registration.
Got it. Okay. So
Well, while we're looking at section J, the towards the end of it, it says, so animal is not running at large as defined by city ordinance, see ordinance number, and again, it's 2020-173. Four. That's why I'm missing so many times. I wrote it wrong here. Anyhow, in the applicable ordinance, we do not define running at large. We define at large. So we need to strike running, capitalize the A in at, use lowercase l in large, because that's the definition in the applicable ordinance.
Okay.
It needs some tweaking.
Oh, it does, yeah.
Well, that's why we're having a meeting.
Well, on that subject, what I worry about is that we write an ordinance, we get a registration, but the information that A, we're a city, B, there are codes, D restrictions and so forth, don't filter down to the renter. And so somebody has to be held responsible. I mean, if they decide to, jack up a junk car in the front yard, that violates the deed restrictions, the city ordinances, but who is to be held responsible?
Ultimately, Gary, under law, the property owner is responsible for everything that happens on his property.
Exactly.
Or are we spelling that out in this registration?
Again, at the end of the ordinance, any violations of terms of this ordinance of said code is further declared to be a misdemeanor, and any person found to be guilty thereof shall be punished by a fine not to exceed $500. Once we notify a property owner that there is a code violation on his property, he is responsible to deal with that code violation, whether he did it or whether his tenants did it. When tenants move out and leave a big mound of trash, we can tell the property owner, okay, you have 10 days to remove this mound of trash because it violates this city code. Or you can pay $500 and for violating the code, and we will get it cleaned, and we'll send you a bill, and we'll put a lien on your property and not let you rent the property till the lien's satisfied.
You know, when we're talking about single rentals, maybe one or two rentals, a single person doing it, I see no problem. What I'm worried about is if we have say a real estate company in charge of 15 or 20 of them, they're going to have some good lawyers to fight about it. And so we got to make this as bulletproof and as clear. That's the main thing. So that when they register, they sign on the dotted line, they lose the ability to claim I didn't understand it. That they must clearly understand it, and when they do the registration, that they have actually read all of this.
Well, and the advantage in that scenario is that those are typically managed by a property management company. So they are much easier to contact, and they're operating as I don't want to use the wrong word. They are operating as a business. So they would be easier to find to be able to address those deficiencies.
Well,
Probably much easier than an individual owner who may live out of state or out of town, or hard to track down.
Well, we saw in the pandemic a number of property management companies, especially apartments, totally ignoring the complaints from the people. So this is never going to be perfect. I understand that, but we got to make it as good as we can make it. It needs some tweaking, but otherwise it looks fine. 98% of it.
Okay.
Just a word here and a word there.
I would like to readdress inserting after paragraph J of section 3, the owner, manager, or owner, landlord, manager, rental property is responsible for arranging trash pickup. Let them include that in their rental rate.
If we add that, we need to make clear that if you say that they're responsible for providing it within the guideline, whatever guidelines the city has in place.
Right.
Yeah, right.
In compliance with our franchise with Tiger. And again, we can make that clear during the application process that it's a requirement.
Right.
Is this going to be something that is retroactive or only on new cases?
Well, the first thing we have to do is, once this is approved, I have to get a list from the appraisal district of all of the rental properties so that we can identify the owners, so that we could contact them. But it would go into effect going forward. So, there's no retroactive. Everybody gets it at the same time.
Okay, I understand.
Alderman Bergen, to address your concern about if the owners knowing this ordinance and being familiar with it, with the form, and maybe as a part of section 2A, the information required that there be an acknowledgement by the notarized or by the owner or landlord that they have read this ordinance and will comply with the ordinance. the city has done other forms similar with that sort of acknowledgement to it.
Okay, were there any other sections of this ordinance that anyone wanted to talk about?
I did on section 2, paragraph B, on where it discusses the fee. Every time a tenant changes, I don't think they should have to pay whatever set fee it is again. Is there a way for us to be, if it's just a tenant change, maybe it's just like a like $10, $15 modification change? I don't think they should have to go through the whole registration process again if it's just a tenant change.
I think that's a great suggestion, because initially the registration is the official notification that yes, I own a property and it is a rental property here. And then you just have the ongoing tenant update going forward.
Well,
Go ahead.
Yeah. We state that in 3A, 4, anytime the rental property is vacant or without a tenant, we're going to initiate an inspection of the interior and exterior. And then we're going to bill the owner for the building inspector's cost. So I don't think we should hit them again with
Registration.
A registration fee, but they will have to bear the cost of the inspection when a tenant changes.
Okay.
Sounds good.
And I'm sorry, Jennifer, what item number was that one? Hopefully it's the per rental registration.
It was section 2, paragraph B.
No, but you mentioned that it said that every time it changes.
No, that was Alderman Fillinger. His was section 3, paragraph A. And then it's going to be item 4 on that. So anytime the rental property is vacant or.
There it is. I'd already scribbled up there, so that's why I lost it. So we want to strike number 4. Was that the recommendation?
No, ma'am, but do we have it in here that every time they change tenants, they have to re-register?
I believe it is in there somewhere.
I thought so too. It says for purpose of this section, only one registration is required per property location, whether the property location consists of a 1-family, 2-family, or multifamily. But it's the inspection that is required at tenant change. So they're 2 different things.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a registration.
Actually,
or the tenant change. Yeah.
If in the registration details and section 2A, item 10 requires the tenant's name and the contact information listed in the current lease, and all current lease shall be presented to the code compliance officer for review upon request. Yet that kind of indicates to me they would have to re-register when they get new tenants. But I I don't think we should, go with an additional registration fee because they're going to be paying for the inspection.
Now, look at C, right under B. It says an owner, landlord, manager of a rental property may not permit or allow another person to occupy or lease rental property without a registration required by this section.
There it is. Yeah, I'm good with that paragraph. I think we should waive any charge on the re-registration. Again, they're going to be paying for the building inspection, so.
Right. I would tend to agree with that.
So we have,
Just waive the charge.
well,
It doesn't mention one. Why?
Or the charge for
mention
what?
we
Waive
could
the
handle,
charge. We need to know somebody else moved in.
yes, okay, we could handle this. Under item B, right above it, an owner, landlord, manager of rental property shall pay a fee of whatever we decide per initial rental property registration.
Right.
Or initial, okay.
And then, in item C, an owner, landlord, manager of rental property may not permit or allow another person to occupy or lease rental property without a registration, without a new registration required by this section,
Without cost.
without cost. That's good.
Do you think, Charles, do you think the way it's worded, I would think that the inspection should read the building and property, not just the building? Or is it already saying that and I'm not seeing it?
Well, your building inspector, he's not inspecting the land per se, unless there's an obvious hazard. But I don't believe that's the intent. It's really more for the building itself. I see Alderman Crickmer has his hand raised. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, on that one, rental property without a registration, change that to inspection because it's already registered, correct? We're going to re-inspect it between tenants, but we're not going to re-register it, correct?
Well, we have to change the registration if we're going to use item 10 on the form listing the tenant's name and contact information.
Because you need to know when a new tenant moves in.
Right.
So we will have to, we will have to have a modified or a new registration, including that information.
But without charge.
With I don't, I don't think we are going to incur a whole lot of cost in re-registering the same property with new tenant names.
So we could have a different fee structure on this where we would have the initial registration of the property.
Okay.
And then let's say a $10 fee for updating the tenants. We need to know when the tenant changes because that's what triggers the inspection.
Yes.
It's also for the safety of the police chief and his police officers to know who's in that building.
If it changes, yeah.
Yes.
And the neighbors.
Well, you know, that tenant information would not be, we have to get into the tenant has some right to privacy, so,
Exactly.
you know.
Yeah.
The owner of the property would be public information, I think, but because it's already published, but the tenant has some right to privacy. It shouldn't be, you know, public information who's actually living there.
Well,
Well, you
an owner
want to do the
occupied.
inspection you want to do the inspection before the people move in.
That's correct.
Exactly. And when you said it's not a matter of public record of who lives there, in an owner occupied property, it is.
And in fact, that is true. But
This is not to, I understand where you're going with this, and that's not the intent of this
Yeah.
at all. It's really to provide safe housing, make sure that the housing that's being rented is safe for the public.
yes,
and the
ma'am.
members. Yeah.
Okay.
So what I would suggest is during the time before we bring this back, everyone kind of put some thought into what they think may be a fair way to address item 10, and that paragraph C for an initial registration and perhaps a subsequent registration fee, if that needs to apply or not. And then we'll get all that feedback back to Ms. Ortiz and have her have a revised draft prepared for our next meeting, if that's acceptable.
That sounds like a good plan to me.
Okay.
Yeah, that works.
Too.
Okay. Okay, so there'll be no action on this particular item tonight. We'll go ahead and move on. The next on the agenda.
Mayor, to include, so I'm treating this as if, you know, being brought back for a second reading, as we would with an ordinance that would, the second reading rule would apply. Is it safe for me to assume that all the proposed amendments made tonight would go into the next draft, so I can start with those?
Well, yes, that would be true. We seem to be stuck on those two paragraphs, those two sections related to the fees. So yeah, we'll all provide you some feedback on kind of what we think it should be. You can take that and perhaps come up with something that may be acceptable. And I made notes all over mine, so I can scan my copy to you just to make sure in case something was, excuse me, not captured.
I'd like a copy of that also, ma'am.
Okay.
With your
Me too.
notes.
Okay.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
No, I can do that.
Mayor,
Not a
I'd like
problem.
one too.
Okay, I'll get it scanned and off to everybody then. Okay, so we will move on to item 10B, which is discuss and or possible action on quotes received for repairing the rock wall on the Waterwood Pass entrance. And we actually received, technically this should have been under Public Works, but that's okay, we'll run with it. So we have two quotes for repair of the wall. We have one from Daniel Avila Remodeling out of San Antonio. And it says rock work at entrance includes cleaning the work area and repairs to the rock wall and sign. And that is a flat fee of $1,450. He also is suggesting that as a separate quote, to pressure wash all the rock, the entire center island, that would be for an additional cost of $550. And then as an additional consideration and a separate quote is adding an additional bollard in front of where the damage was done to hopefully prevent it from happening again. And
I
that
think
would
it's a
be,
good idea.
that would be an additional $550. So we would be looking at about $2,550, I think is what it comes up to be, or $2,600 total from this particular person. And then we have another one here. And this is from RL Concrete. And scope of the work is approximately 1,000 square foot chemically washed stone. And this one, it looks like the total price. So they're looking at repairing the wall as it is today, and then pressure washing or chemically cleaning the wall, 1,000 square foot of stone retaining wall. And if we just want the repair, it was $2,500. If we wanted the wash and the repair, the total would be $3,250. And let's see, 550, that's 1,100. So the first one, the first vendor that broke it down into 3 different pieces, the total cost on that, if we did an apples to apples for service being provided, the first one is $2,550. And the second one is $3,250. Now the difference is the first one is in the San Antonio area, and the second one is in Sandy Oaks. Are there any questions from the council on this? Oh, I did want to throw out there that there was some discussion as a third option that we did not receive a bid for. We didn't present it. But third option was to remove the entire rock island. If that were something that someone wanted to pursue, then we would have to table this and come back with another option at a future meeting.
I would not be in favor of totally removing the rock island. Just because, you know, we do have the Sandy Oak sign out there, and I know there are some long-term plans. Some of the ladies want to do some landscaping out there. Removing the island would probably be quite costly because there's water and electricity out there that would have to be removed.
I agree. I kind of like it.
I do too.
So I'm all in favor of adding the additional bollard in.
I think you froze, Charles.
I'm sorry. I'm all in favor of going with the first bid with the addition of the bollard.
I am too.
What do we think about cleaning it? Anybody for that?
What?
Well, that guy's-
Yes.
You
Me
are?
too.
Okay. Yeah, I'm for
What-
the Sevilla guy.
When we
So the first one gave it to us in the 3 different pieces. One is the repair, one's the cleaning, one's the additional bollard. And for all 3 of those components, it was $2,550.
So it's cheaper than the second bid.
It is. And the second one does not include an additional bollard.
Yeah, I want the bollard, so I move that we approve the bid from Avia. All three parts not to exceed $2,600.
I'll second that.
I'll second that.
I think Mr. Crickmer beat you to it. So we have.
I don't care.
We have a motion by Alderman Fillinger and a second by Alderman Crickmer to approve the proposal from Daniel Avila Remodeling for a price not to exceed $2,600. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries. Okay. We will get moving on that one. All right, item C, discuss and or possible action on quotes received for interior locks in the new municipal building. Okay, this one was, it's kind of like telling somebody to go do some programming. If you don't know what they're talking about, it's really hard to follow along. So I was on the phone with Robin Safe and Lock while Priscilla was at the building with him, and we were going through the various scenarios of what is needed in the building. And so you should have received from me my attempt to organize this in some fashion that makes sense, because it had to make sense to me as well. So there is a quote where I have made a notation on the left-hand side where each of these various components would play. And then there's another sheet that gives you an idea of the good, better, and best, and why they're recommending these various things. So we'll start at the top on the actual quote. It says 3-lever entrance grade 2 locks, all keyed different. This would be for the marshal's office and the deputies. We're only doing 2 deputies at this time because we have one and we're in the process of hiring another. And because they will have case files and whatever they need to secure, it's important that they each have their own locks. However, the marshal or police chief his key would be programmed to access the other officers, but not vice versa. And so, and you can see that these are what they call the president's level. So a president's level is a keyway that you would have to go to a locksmith to duplicate and would require a letter of authorization if they have the blank. And each of those keys to be redone would be $7.95 each. The next one down is the holding cell and the front lobby. So where it says 2-lever passage grade 2 locks, these are handles. I think everybody's been down to the new building already, but when you walk into the main door, there's a lobby area, and there was not a door that separated the offices from that lobby. But when we had the bulletproof glass put in and the wall treated, they also installed a door at that time, but it does not have a handle. It does not have a lock set. So when we talk about the 2-lever passage, this is the handle, and all handles in that building will be levers for ADA compliance. And then the holding cell also needs a lever handle for opening that door as well. These would be the ASSA for not the front door, but the holding cell and the evidence room. This is the highest quality, highest security level of a keyway that you can get. Can only be duplicated at Robin Safe and Lock, and your name has to be on the list in order for that to even have a key made. So that for the evidence room, that's the most secure lock system that we need there. And then we go down to the evidence room. There's a single-sided deadbolt that will also be ASSA, they call it ASA, I think, but anyway. And so it will have keyed on both sides so that it can be locked from the outside. You can also be in the room and lock it while you're in with the evidence room. That way the door is not unlocked at any time. And then at the front, that door that I mentioned in the lobby, rather than have a key that you need to get in, what they're recommending is they call it a simplex lever lock. So it's one that you walk up and it's got buttons you push to enter a code, and then it unlocks that door. So there's no keys to lose or change, or you can change the code very easily. However, when you have one of those mechanisms on the door, it does require that it have a door closer on it as well. So you'll see down here that it is also including the cost for a door closer. So that's the extent of the, and the other offices will just have normal locks. I mean, they're already keyed and all the keys are in the locks. We just needed to address the marshals area and the front lobby area. And that's what this does. So for all of everything that we talked about, the total price on here was $3,283.08. And I can tell you that the am I back yet? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, you're back.
Oh, that's
It froze
crazy.
up.
So the total cost on this is $3,283.08. And what I wanted to say is 2 of these absolutely must be done. And that is the evidence room and the holding cell. There's no way around that. We have to have those done in order to move into that building and also as part of the TCO inspection. So are there any questions?
Well, ma'am, I would put an equal emphasis on the entry
lobby.
door
Yeah.
from the lobby to the back area.
Yeah.
It would be crazy for us to have bulletproof glass, bulletproof walls,
And an open door.
and an open door.
True.
I recommend we take the big bite and do all
Do
the
the
work
whole thing.
now rather than come back piecemeal, which would involve extra travel and therefore extra labor.
And
So
extra service calls.
Yeah, and he's on this quote, it does include 6 hours of labor for $570 and a
Yep.
service call. So, you know, you're correct. We would have to pay that again.
we'd have to pay the service call and the labor each time they come out. So I would move that we accept the proposal from Robbins Safe and Lock Service, not to exceed $3,290. Give them a little wiggle room.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Alderman Fillinger and a second by Alderman Rapino to accept the quote from Robbins Safe and Lock for a price not to exceed $3,290. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Okay, let's move on to item D. I'm going to pull that. We did not get It's here. Okay, so I'm gonna pull item D. I have not got the quotes back on that one yet. We'll address that in the future. And we will move on to item E, which is discuss and or possible action on quotes received for stairs for the 2 emergency exits for the new municipal building. So we did get 2 quotes. Alderman Fillinger, wasn't there going to be a third one, a freebie?
He has just got back to town and didn't have time to look at it. He's committed to a large job. I forget where he said, I think Midland, Texas.
Okay,
So
we'll go with what we have here.
yeah, he would not be available to readily take on the job.
Okay, fair enough. So we have 2 quotes here, or proposals. One is from Frank's Contracting, and this is being done with wood, and it would be for both of the doors back there, and the grand total is $2,100. And then we have another one here. This would be a metal. So there's fabrication of emergency stair set 1 and stair set 2. And boy, this is small print, but I see that big number. Okay, so for the 2, and these would be metal, and they did provide a nice drawing. It's using 6-inch C-channel, 3-inch square tube, 2-inch square tube, some 2-inch angle, and some grating. But for the 2 steps, it would be $4,918.88. And I will say that Frank's Contracting is the same gentleman who did
What's
up? It doesn't matter. Whatever. I was going to say that Frank's Contracting is the same contractor who did the concrete work and the parking lot and the bollards up there at the new municipal building. And he did a very, very fine job.
Well, I think the second bid, I believe the gentleman way over engineered the project. That's, unless he has that metal left over from another job, that's 6-inch C-channel is way over engineered. But at the prices, I believe we should go with the pressure treated wood steps. We're looking at probably 15 to 20 year lifespan on that for $2,100. And I'd like to make a motion that we award the work to Frank's Contracting for a total not to exceed $2,100.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Fillinger and a second by Alderman Crickmer to approve the proposal from Frank's Contracting for the stairs on the 2 emergency exits for a price not to exceed $2,100. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. And with that, it is 8:54 p.m. and we are adjourned. And thank you, everyone, and have a great evening.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night, all.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Have fun.
You too.
Well.